All right, sounds good. So first of all, thank you, ladies, for being here. I'm super excited to have you. This is always an honor. You know, we come a long way from E2M having 10 clients, and now we have doctors on panels giving their testimonies of being clients. And so this is real cool for me. It's not lost the fact that you guys are busy and you took the time to come in and hang out with me. So thank you so much for that, first and foremost. I would love for you guys to do a little intro. Say whatever you choose to say. You want to plug your practice, whatever you like. You want to plug your social media, whatever you choose. It's up to you. Ma'am, you first.
I am Dr. Karen White. I am originally from Cleveland, Ohio. I live here in the DMV. I currently, I am a obstetrician gynecologist by training, but I did subspecialty fellowship in maternal fetal medicine. So I take care of pregnant patients with high-risk pregnancies.
Awesome.
And I practice here in the Maryland area.
Okay, that's awesome. Ma'am?
Well, I am Dr. Amy Brown, and I am a triple board certified physician in obstetrics and gynecology, and then fellowship trained in fertility medicine.
Okay.
So most of my day is spent helping couples get pregnant.
I love it.
And then my third board certification is brand new to me. It's a lifestyle medicine certification, kind of prompted by my E2M journey, to focus on prevention and treatment of chronic diseases through lifestyle.
I love it. I love it.
So I am a single mom. I have 3 boys, and we live in San Antonio.
Okay.
Karen actually took care of me in my very first pregnancy, so it's so exciting to see her.
That's really cool. Man.
So cool. And I'm about to have my 2-year anniversary in E2M next month.
We're so happy to have
I just
you.
left out a lot of information.
Nice to meet you, Doc. Okay, and last but not least.
I am Maya Green, family medicine doc from Maryland. I'm happy to be here for the DC DMV event. I'm a traveling doctor, so family medicine from coast to coast and beyond. So grew up in Maryland, did all my training in Virginia, and then since then I've been traveling. So California, Virginia, New Mexico, Alaska, most recently Hawaii, and then just finished assignment here locally, which was fun to kind of be back in the area. And I am finishing up round 5 of my E2M journey. I'm happy
There we
to be
go.
here.
That's my favorite
I guess
number.
I left my rounds out.
Hold on, I want to know your rounds. Don't leave your rounds out. Let's hear.
So we were just talking about this. I started in September 2020, so it's like round 16, I think, 15 or 16.
An OG.
That's good. No, that's beautiful.
Something like that.
So I think you have the OG title, right? Just the longest OG.
Yes.
In that case, I'll start with you.
Okay.
So Dr. White, can you kind of give me a little bit of your E2M journey? How did you first hear about E2M?
I first heard about E2M through a social media physicians group, actually. And there were several members of the group who were a part of E2M. And I had been struggling trying to figure out some way to get some of this weight off. And I said, what could it hurt? It's really, and so I started, and it's the only thing that ever worked for me.
I love it.
So
it's coming from a doctor. Make sure y'all hear that.
It literally was the only thing that worked for me.
Okay. When you came in, did you come in with anyone, or you kind of came in, by yourself as a kind of a self-seeking journey?
It was a self-seeking journey. If one of my best friends would say, I was doing this under the stealth of night.
I like it. A lot of people do that.
For me, I just decided to do it and I didn't talk about it. I just did it. And really, I didn't notice any changes. It wasn't until people started to see me and they hadn't seen me in a while. And they were like, what have you been doing? And I'm like, I wasn't even really thinking about it. I was like, what do you mean? And they were like, you've lost weight, so.
I love it. And you've been here for what, 2 years? Well, almost 3 years.
Almost 3. It'll be 3 years in September.
Man, that's awesome. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. All right, Doc Brown.
Yes.
Let's hear it. How did you first hear about E2M? How did you come to us?
So I probably heard about E2M in the same social media group that Karen did, a group of physicians. And someone posted, when's that next E2M round? I think I'm going to do it next time.
Exactly.
And then people started putting their before and afters.
I love it.
And, the community of Black women physicians is pretty small.
I love it.
So when I saw, and I was, oh, no, I know that's an actual person because I do know that person.
Right.
And so, I joined because it was people sharing their own journeys, people that I knew. And I thought, if someone that has a busy schedule, just like I do, who knows the science and they're behind it and they're recommending it, then that's something that I, want to try. So I was kind of in the same place. I had been kind of up and down, had tried different things, explored different things from a health standpoint. These kids, weight goes up, weight goes down. And so it was something that, I did that first round and I saw such amazing results that after that I was hooked.
I love it. I love it. We like to hook. Thank you so much. All right, Dr. Green, how'd you hear about us? How'd you come to us? Tell us a story.
Surprisingly, that same social media.
Hey, listen, I need to find out what this group is. I want to make sure these sound bites get to that group so we can get all of them in E2M. Okay.
Trust me, that group is well aware. So I had actually heard about this program a couple times in that group. And the first couple times I heard about it, I wasn't in the right headspace.
Gotcha.
Right? I was not really focused on my health journey at the time. What's this E2M thing that they're talking about? I'm not really going to worry about it. And then I had finally gotten to a place where I was ready to start my health journey. And I was like, oh, people kept talking about E2M. Let me go back in the group and search it and figure out, what they were talking about. And at the time, E2M was very elusive. Right? You didn't have these podcasts. You didn't have these calls. And so trying to go online to figure out what E2M was very hard to do. And so I did really depend and rely on that group to kind of give me some information and know that this was a reliable, worthwhile thing to do, that I wasn't just going to be throwing my money into the abyss, essentially. And so I signed on and I was trying to convince some friends to join with me and they were hesitant. But I got into the E2M group, and the first post that I saw was the couple awards from the previous round, and it was someone that I had gone to graduate school with, who was who's best friends with the friend I'm trying to get into the group. And I was like, well, this is serendipitous, like to walk in the door and immediately see a familiar face. I know I'm where I'm supposed to be, and so that started off my journey, and I was so happy to be here.
Definitely where you're supposed to be, and shout out to that Facebook group. Shout out. I appreciate you. Don't even know you, but I love you. All right. So ladies, I want to talk about kind of my first thing that I'm curious about. You all have very busy lives, right? As doctors, and you know medicine. So what things kind of what made you get to the point to where you decided that, hey, I got to do something? Because you already know medicine, you know health. So what was it? Because each person has that tipping point. And I'm always trying to encourage people to, hey, man, you got to find that tipping point to when you're ready to make a change. So I know each of you probably have something different. So what was it for you? You already know medicine and things like that. So what was that tipping point to say, hey, my lifestyle's busy. I want to take better care of myself. What was that tipping point?
My tipping point was at my annual physical exam when she wrote that prescription for blood pressure medicine.
Wow, and you know what that means? Yeah. Wow.
That was my tipping point, and it made me realize that I was going to have to make some changes. When you're in medicine, particularly clinical medicine, we don't have traditional hours. And so a lot of us, we don't work regular 9 to 5s. True. We are spending 12, sometimes 16 hours a day,
back to back,
focused on somebody else. And so, and then I also realized that I'm closer to retirement than not retirement. And I want to spend my retirement having a good time. I want to enjoy my retirement. I don't want to be sick.
There you go.
Amen to that.
And I want, I have, family members who have, chronic disorders, and I want to change the narrative. So
I love it. You brought up a good point, and I think I want to do a shameless plug because I think you guys will appreciate this. A lot of people don't do their yearly physicals.
Yes,
Mhm.
please plug the annual physical.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
a lot of things can just slide through the cracks.
Mhm.
That would be a tipping point for someone if they would
Right.
just go get checked by a doctor,
Correct.
but they're afraid to go. And so my thing is, if you're afraid to go, that's more of a reason
Right.
Mhm.
for
Right.
you to go.
Correct.
So, okay, Dr. Brown, what was your tipping point? What made you say, hey, I got to do something different? And you were humble enough to say, I don't know it all. I'm going to give somebody else a try to help me with that.
I think the tipping point for me was that I had kind of run out of excuses.
Mhm.
You know, there are different things in life, new job, pregnancy,
Right.
breastfeeding, another pregnancy. But there got to be a point where I knew, like, I don't have any more excuses.
Mhm.
I am where I am. I'm stable in my job.
Right.
My kids are here.
Mhm.
I really need to focus on myself to be a better doctor, to be a better mom. So just making that decision to really make myself a priority. And then, you know, after COVID and being at home part of that time and just not taking care of myself the way that I should have, it all was just kind of came together at the same time. And then I heard about E2M and it all kind of fell into place.
Mhm.
I love it. I mean, that's just the thing I love about this is like during the pandemic, a lot of people were looking for something to get them back in the game.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, just it was a blessing for this to be ready for them.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, Dr. Green, what was your tipping
My
point?
tipping point was the scale tipping.
Oh, man.
Let's be honest about it, right?
That's a
That
real
It was
one.
the
That's a real
scale.
one.
It was the
Yeah.
clothes that weren't
Yes.
fitting the way that they used to. And it was the realization that these kind of fad things that I had tried
Mhm.
were not sustainable and
Correct.
were not getting me where I needed to be.
Mhm.
I like to describe my eating style pre-E2M as unsupervised 5-year-old in that whatever I wanted, I had
Yeah.
because I had the means to get it. And so if I
Mhm.
wanted it, I would get it.
Mhm.
And that's not a good thing, you know?
Right.
And so like in between these periods of like healthful and then eating poorly and then healthful and then eating poorly
Yeah.
and you lose 10 pounds and you gain 15 pounds. This is not sustainable and this is not where I want to be. And it's time to start focusing on me, focus on health, start moving towards a healthy future.
Yep.
My grandmother is 104 years old.
Oh, man. That's
Oh,
good.
And
that's
I
awesome.
would
Love it.
love to make it to 104, but I was not going to make it to 104
I love it.
eating whatever I wanted every day when
real.
those things that I wanted were not healthy
That's
and were
real.
not the healthy choices to be making and were not helping me feel good when I ate them.
It's real.
And so that was the tipping point. Like I need something that's sustainable, that's easy for me to do, and that I can do in perpetuity into the future.
I love it. So I'll stay with you, Dr. Green. Your lifestyle's busy. How did you start to make being healthy a part of your lifestyle? Because sometimes for people that are as busy as you ladies are, being healthy is not convenient. That's a misconception, but people think that being healthy is not convenient.
Very true.
So how did you start to work in being healthier into your lifestyle as a doctor?
Well, I think part of the inconvenience factor is that when we think of being healthy, we think of the hardest way, right? Being healthy means I have to go to the gym,
Mhm.
right? Being healthy means that I have to have these like pre-packed meals that are slow cooked every day and
100%.
you know all of these like very complicated things to do. And so
100%.
that's I think one of the things that made me fall in love with E2M is that I can do these workouts in my house.
Facts.
When I started, I was not using weights. All I had was a yoga mat and that was perfect. And
There you
that's all
go.
I needed. I didn't have to convince myself to get in the car to drive to the gym because that probably wasn't going to happen if I had to convince myself.
I agree.
Or if I was going to go to the gym, I made sure that my gym clothes were already in the car before I left for work in the morning so that I didn't have an excuse to not go to the gym, those kinds of things. And so that's where I started. It was really the focus on getting my water in and getting the exercise in.
Yep.
You know, and then, you know, okay, well, let's adjust the eating and let's go to Costco and let's get everything in bulk and make things a little bit easier for
like it.
myself instead of having to figure out what I'm going to have for dinner every night. I have the pleasure of being single and not having children, so I
Love
don't
it.
have to
Yeah.
worry about feeding a full family of
I
people,
love it. I love
which
it.
means that I can swing by a restaurant on the way home, which is convenient in the short term, but very expensive
Yeah.
and generally not very healthy. So it's been kind of eye-opening to learn how to meal prep and to take that worry out of my life on the daily basis of where's the food going to come from.
100%. You know, that's kind of a you just kind of mentioned something that gave me a thought. How did you shift your thought pattern from healthy healthy items are more convenient. So I'm not going to waste the time on trying to be healthier with healthy items. To healthy items can also be convenient. What was that like change in mindset where you said, okay, I can also be busy and healthy?
Yeah, I think that the chefs in the group were really helpful for that in showing how to meal prep.
Yep.
And then getting a membership to a Whole Food Club, and then getting a rotisserie chicken. Like that was my starter. I'd get a rotisserie chicken, I'd get some frozen broccoli and some frozen cauliflower rice. And I was like, this is going to be my start until I learn how to cook some things really well.
100%.
Let's start with what's convenient and easy for me. And then that was the start for me.
And that's my thing. I think people expect that I want them to be extreme. I'm not looking for extreme. That's not the case here. Small changes in your lifestyle can have huge impact. Instead of bringing a ton of snacks for your 12, 16-hour shift, you bring healthy things. You walk more. You take you don't sit at your desk. You get up and you walk the halls a little bit more. There could be small changes that can make a big impact on your health. And I think people just see being healthy as a burden.
Yeah.
I don't have time to cook. I don't have time to work out. But you don't have time to be sick either. So it's kind of like, what
to
do you...
play off of that.
Right.
Just like the little healthy things that you do. Now that I'm like going to work in the parking lot, I'm walking up and down the 3 flights of stairs to get back and forth to my car. Never would I have ever done that. And it's like the elevator and the stairs are right next to each other. It's not like I'm going out of my way to find the stairs. The stairs are right there. And I'm going up and down 3 flights of stairs, and I'm not breathing heavily when I get to the top. You know, it's just the little things.
So look, I gotta make y'all laugh. So listen, so you guys have been around E2M for a while, right? Could you have made it up the stairs of this studio as easily
Listen,
before E2M as you did now?
I was laughing when I was coming up the stairs because I was like, ooh. And then I said, well, you just did that out of habit. You're fine.
Right,
you know, you're fine. So
yeah, because there's some very steep stairs coming into the studio.
Absolutely.
And I was like, man, that was a pretty good hump. But you know, that's something to think about when you think about the small changes. Most people want to see big changes before they realize that what they're doing is worthwhile. They want to see the big scale swings. They want to see the big dress and pant sizes. But the small things like being able to take the stairs instead of the elevator, they don't think about those things. So, okay, cool. So how do you handle family and busy lifestyle? Because you talked about a ton of stuff you got going on. So how do you work being healthy into that? How do you now prioritize your health?
So for me, you know, being in that infamous Facebook group, there were some tips that were shared before I started my first round. And one of them was to join the lives, to like be accountable. And
you watching me, okay.
So that's the decision I made. You know, I'm gonna do the live. So I started that Sunday. I listened to your first live, and you said something about, you know, 5:30 a.m. Eastern Standard, and I was like, Eastern. Like, I am Central. And then it took me about 20 minutes to do the math, to subtract that hour, and think, it can't be 4:30. It cannot be 4:30 in the morning. But I had made that commitment to myself to do the live. So my very first ever E2M workout, I did at 4:30 in the morning. And then someone else had posted, oh, you should do the Tuesday workout, the extra credit. And then second day, okay, I'm up at 4:45 doing that workout.
I love it.
And so I started my E2M journey shifting when I woke up. And I created this extra time in my day that I didn't know existed before. All of a sudden, I have this time between 4:30 and 6:30 when the kids are up. So for me, it kind of forced me to organize my time I was already an early riser, but to make it even earlier and really start my day, prioritize my health. So for me, it was not actually done on purpose. It was accidental to really create that time in the morning.
I love it. So Dr. White, you know, being our super OG, all right, what are some tips you would give, especially other doctors in it, because I want to get them all. I want all the doctors to be in this group. Not a single one should not be in here. But what are some tips you would give to other people that have busy lifestyles like you? what things have you started to work in your daily life? Because, like I said, it doesn't have to be these radical changes when you run 10 miles a day. What are the small health changes that you started to incorporate into your life?
So I will definitely say, in my particular job, the end of the day can be very unpredictable.
Yep.
So you could have every intention on walking out the door when the clinic closes, but oftentimes that very last patient is something that leaves you there 2 or 3 extra hours that you did not anticipate, or you have all these charts you need to finish. So for me, getting up in the morning and doing the exercise in the morning makes a huge difference, because I found that I was becoming very anxious when I didn't do it in the morning. And as I'm trying to work, all I'm thinking about is, when am I going to work out?
Right.
You know, and when I started focusing on doing it in the morning, it took a lot of anxiety away.
It's already done.
So yes, it's already done, and you don't have to worry about that. So I don't have to keep worrying about what time am I going to get home, because I do not work out well in the evening. Does not work well for me. But what it allows me to do is when I do get home and it's daylight, I go for a walk.
There you go.
And so with the dog, and I go on a brisk walk. And people really underestimate what walking does.
Oh,
walking,
great.
That's really when the weight really started coming off,
100%.
when I added walking. So that, to me, those 2 things, it gave me the opportunity to do more in the evening, extra in the evening. So,
you know, I mean, that's kind of one of those things that I share with people that, I mean, it's easier said than done. But if you prioritize the hardest thing for you to do as the first thing you do for the day, it will definitely pay off. Because a lot of people, after you've worked 12, 16 hours, you're tired, you had stress at the job, you have stress in the family. The last thing you want to do is give up your free time to work out. And until your mind starts to process working out as stress relief or something you enjoy, if you just don't like working out, you're not going to do that thing after you've already had a long day, after you're already tired, after you're already aggravated. You're not going to put something else on your plate that you don't feel like doing. So if you just make yourself be uncomfortable in the morning and get it done, it'll pay off.
So I have to piggyback off.
Yeah, go for it.
Because I am the person who can sleep at any point in the day, and sleep is my favorite hobby. And that's like, sleeping in is my favorite thing to do. Like, getting up in the morning is the hardest part of my day. And so I fought AM workouts for the first 4 rounds of this program. And I got into, so I travel for work, and I travel for 3 or 4 months at a time. And so in January, I started a new assignment. And so I had some time off in December, and I was getting my workouts in during the day because I didn't have to worry about being at work. You know, I could do the workout whenever I wanted. And I started this new assignment, and I was still, you know, very committed to E2M, and I was working these 11, 12-hour days that we talked about. And I'd get home, and I'd want to do the workout, but I really also just kind of wanted to sit down and eat dinner and watch TV. And so then I would not do the workout, and then I would feel bad, and then I'd wake up and be like, well, tomorrow I'll get the workout in. Tuesday will be completely different than Monday for some
those IOUs started adding up.
And so for the first 3 rounds of the first 3 weeks of January, the workouts just really weren't happening. I was really frustrated that they weren't happening, and how can I fix it? And I know that the workouts are live in the morning, but that just doesn't make sense. Like, I'm not a morning person, so I obviously can't get up to do the workouts in the morning. And so it was week 4 that round, and I was like, you know what? Let's just try it. Let's just try it for a week and see how it goes. And so I set my alarm for 5:30, and I promised myself that I would not hit the snooze. I laid my workout clothes out the night before, so I didn't have to worry about it. I would like pre-watch the demo, so I knew what to anticipate. Yoga mat was laid out, tennis shoes were laid out, and that first day I woke up, 5:30, alarm went off, I got out of bed, jumped out, put the clothes on, did the workout, texted my accountability group. They were so proud of me, they couldn't believe it. I've been doing it since, so it's been,
that's awesome.
you know, a full 2 months of doing it.
Wow.
And everyone is amazed. My friends are amazed, my parents are amazed, my family's amazed. I'm amazed. And just the fact that just it was impossible because I told myself that it was impossible. Right? We tell ourselves these things because we don't want to change. Right? But, you know, you need to change. Like the things that I want to do require change, one, and there's always something that's going to be hard, right? You got to choose your hard.
100%.
So if my hard is getting out of bed at 5:30 in the morning, but it makes me feel better for the rest of the day, that's the hard that I'm going to choose.
There you go. And now I got a question for you.
Uh-oh.
All right. How did you push yourself to progress from, like you said, you started out with just doing no weight exercises and things of that nature. How did you internally push yourself to do more? Because now you just talked about you're having a 2-month streak, which I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
But how did you motivate yourself and push yourself? I mean, because I'm trying to rah you, but for you to actually wake up, I'm not at your house. I'm not pushing your alarm clock. Yes. So what was it that kind of got you to push yourself to go a little harder?
It was my accountability group.
Okay.
Absolutely, it was my accountability group. So shout out to Waikego and Audra and Kimberly and DeAndre because that is my accountability group. And our first round, so I came into a round right after the OG in my group had won the couples round, right?
All right.
So that was her first round, I believe, and they finished it winning the award for best couples transformation.
Yeah.
So she brings in 3 friends, and now we're in an accountability group, and she's like, you guys are going to win. Okay? There's a competition in this. We're going to win it again. So it was a very intense start for us. And she held us up, and she motivated us on the days that we wanted to quit. And so it was really good to have that support. And so I really appreciate the fact that you emphasize and push for these accountability groups. Because if it was just me leaning on me, I would have quit a long time ago. Because when things get hard, you know, sometimes it's easier not to do it. And so it's been very helpful to have my accountability group to be there to support me.
See, I'm getting a lot of good sound bites from you on this one. Because I want to ask you guys that a lot of people they go on their health journey alone, and it's normally because they don't feel like this is a strong word, need somebody to hold them accountable. I don't need somebody telling me when to work. I don't need somebody telling me to eat healthy. So if you guys don't mind sharing, if you have had accountability partner success, I mean, you just shared your story. So what is it about having the accountability of others on the same journey that has helped you along the way? Even if you don't have a personal accountability partner, just having the other people in the group that are at the same pace that you are, that are trying to do the same things. I wouldn't mind hearing from each of you. What has accountability done for you?
Literally hold you accountable. So if you know that someone is going to text you at the crack of dawn and say, did you do your workout? And you just don't want to not be honest.
Right.
And so I think that's the big one for me.
I love it. It's positive peer pressure.
Absolutely.
It's not negative. That's my whole thing. I don't like any negativity. And we don't allow negativity. But that positive peer pressure can work, because not that you are being bossed around by somebody and they're in your business. It's they genuinely want to see you achieve the goals that you set. They didn't set the goals. You set the goals. But it's just it's having a cheerleader, somebody in your corner to cheer for you. What about you?
So for me, the first accountability group that I was in was mainly about not feeling alone.
Oh, yeah.
Like knowing that there were a group of people, we were all doing this together. So that was really helpful. And then as I started to engage more in the group and post more and meet more people, the people of E2M will have you doing some crazy stuff.
All good crazy, by the way.
The best kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just for example, like I met Josh Wells.
Oh, yeah.
He invited me to stay in a house when we did the Texas meetup. It was my first meetup. And just having that group and meeting people and then seeing people's journeys and being part of something where you really feel like, okay, yes, these are my people. And then, I got into a rowing accountability group with Nassim, who was like, let's row 1,000,000 meters in a year. And I was like, that's a lot of meters. But, you're like, okay, because you realize you can do hard things. There's a lot of challenge that has happened for me, and a lot of just realizing that I can do these things. And so having those people around you, not only that are on the journey as you, same journey as you, but also who want to push you to do more. So that's been really helpful, because I don't think I would have done a lot of these lofty goals on my own, because I wouldn't have even thought of doing that? Like, who thinks of doing a million of anything?
Yeah.
I love
just,
it. So,
just to piggyback off of that really quickly,
yeah.
I think that also part of the beauty of the accountability group is that a lot of times when we do these, like we start these workout things, we don't tell anyone because we're afraid we're going to fail.
True.
Absolutely.
Right. And then if I fail, I didn't tell anybody, so I don't have to worry about it. So if I don't skip a day, it's not really that big of a deal because nobody knows that I'm doing this thing. And so if you have an accountability group who knows that you're doing this and they're going to check in on you, that just makes you that much more likely to make it happen and keep going. And so that's what was really helpful for me. Like, these people are checking in on me. I can't just escape. I can't just disappear. They're going to make sure that I'm being held accountable.
So Dr. Green, I got to ask you a question. Are you now starting to do the same thing for others? Are you starting to help them stay accountable?
I have started to do that. Yes. Okay. So I now have a second accountability group. Shout out to Constance and Eddie, who started another doctor accountability group. And then also, I think on one of your lives, sometimes you'll say, like, if you need an accountability partner, just post under here and reach out to people. And so now I have a couple people on Facebook that I just check in with, like weekly. How are you doing? We're starting a new round. Are you getting getting things set up and that kind of thing? And so, like, I don't know these people, we haven't met, but we can support each other because we're in E2M and we know that we're all on the same path.
Now, you mentioned a second ago about loneliness. A lot of people, when they start their health journey, they don't have other family members that want to do it with them. It's a self-seeking journey. The whole house is not on E2M. Just mom, just dad, just one person. How do you feel the community of E2M would help people that is the pioneer in their family? I'm the one that's deciding to make a healthy choice for me first and for the family second, but the family's not on board. They don't want to eat the healthy stuff. They don't want to work out. For people that are not in E2M, can you kind of share, what that support group, what the positivity of E2M would do for somebody that doesn't have anybody that's telling them to pick the healthy items, that's giving them a pat on the back for doing the right thing? What would you say to them?
I would say it's interesting because I think a lot of us who use social media will not are very familiar with the catty backbiting that you can see in some groups.
100%.
And the beautiful thing about E2M is this environment the team has set up that there is no negativity towards people.
Not playing that game.
And I think it helps bring people out of their shell, number one. So they know that if they can't find support anywhere else, that they can go to the group and just, put something out there and they will get swarmed with good vibes. But the second thing that I think helps tremendously is that Dr. Rezi.
Oh yeah.
Shout out Dr. Rezi.
It is. She is awesome, and she helps you look at things from a perspective. She helps you look inside yourself. Is the best way I can describe it, and which to me is the beauty of E2M. E2M encompasses. It's a very well-rounded program. It your mind, your body. Everything is the intermittent fasting, everything, all of that together, I think is what makes the program so successful, and which is why I love it. So using the mental fitness along with the support from the group makes a big difference.
I love it. So I'm gonna hit you with a question, Dr. Brown. Recently, I had a family member have some illnesses, and I was in the hospital with them, and I kind of noticed just a lot of healthcare professionals, they spend so much time focusing on others that they don't take great care of themselves. What would you recommend to other people in the healthcare field, nurses, doctors, etc., about E2M that would help them? Because, as I was there in the hallway, I almost wanted to grab them like, hey, man, I could help you because you're helping so many. Right. It's like I respect it and I appreciate it because they're running around trying to save lives, keep people alive. But at the same time, being healthy seems to be inconvenient. So it's like, saving everyone else but not themselves.
Right.
So what advice would you give for other, and not just healthcare professionals, other people like firefighters and police officers, people that have really, really busy natural jobs
Mm-hmm.
where they don't have a lot of time? What would you recommend to them? What would you say?
So I know, like, as physicians, we are not immune to the chronic diseases that plague all of us in the United States.
Right.
If you look at the studies, doctors have very similar rates of obesity as the general public, and we have the knowledge.
Yeah.
And so, you know, what Reese says all the time is knowledge is fine, but if you don't have application, then it's not going to work. So
100%.
when I talk to other physicians, there's a couple things I say. So one is that it is an all-encompassing program.
Yeah.
So in lifestyle medicine, there's 6 pillars. I call them the nests because nests make me think of eggs, and eggs make me think of fertility. But nutrition, exercise, sleep, avoidance of toxic substances, which I include processed foods, stress reduction, and social support. And so when I talk to people,
sound like E2M right there.
exactly. And there is so much data on these intensive lifestyle programs, and it's the only program that I know that has all of the things included.
Say what? Let me say again.
You've got it. The only program I know. So the fact that it is this entire lifestyle program, and the other thing is that there's also data to support doctors that exercise talk to their patients about exercise.
That's a good point.
Doctors that have normal body weights are more likely to talk about nutrition to their patients. They've done surveys of this. So people...
I want to catch you on that one because somebody said something. I want you to back it up and you to say it, not for me to say it. Doctors who have adopted healthier lifestyles will prescribe that first.
Absolutely.
Before they go for medicine. Is that true?
Absolutely. There's data that supports this, and all of this is really exciting to me, and it's new, and I just took those boards in December. So I'm just like reading and learning all of these things, and there is data to support that. So when physicians are healthy, we have healthier patients because we're more likely to talk about it. We're more likely to engage. So much of medicine right now is focused on disease and not prevention. And that's just the nature of where we are. So when you have a group of doctors that are really bought into this lifestyle and living that way, then it makes the whole community healthier.
I love it. And what was so cool is at that same hospital that I was there for my loved one, there was a group of nurses and doctors that were on E2M. And they were able to find camaraderie at work during their shift and things like that about trying to be healthy because, I mean, there's all the pitfalls there. There's snacks, there's processed foods. And so it's like when you have your accountability partners right there on the floor with you, they're not going to smack a sandwich out of your mouth, but they're going to encourage you to try to do the healthier thing versus the easy, more convenient thing. So that's kind of cool. So I will ask you guys this question. It's going to be different for each of you. But what has been the most inspiring thing that you as a doctor have seen in E2M? So I'll start on the end first. But think about the stories that you've seen in the page and different things that you've encountered yourself. What's something that inspired you?
I think something that really inspires me in the group is the people who are going through the challenging health issues and continue to lean on E2M
100%.
because of the health factor, but also the positive mental health factor in the group, right? You know that when you come in and you post things, people are going to give you so much positive feedback and support. And so I think of posts of people who are going through cancer treatments and having surgeries. And, we have differently abled people in the group too who are so inspiring and continue to show up and do what they can, And the people who are like, oh yeah, like I'm getting over this surgery. I just had this cancer treatment. I just had this treatment. I can't wait until my doctor says I can get back to working out, right? Like where else do you see that people are so sad that they can't get their workout in, that they're like waiting for their doctor to give them the okay. I think that's so inspiring.
I love it. Dr. Brown?
So I think my most inspiring thing has come recently. Okay. I've been giving out E2M brochures for a
I
long
love it.
time.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
But I have recently had a group of patients that have joined E2M.
Okay, that's awesome.
And it has been so amazing to see their journeys while simultaneously being the doctor checking their labs.
I love it.
So I'm seeing them post, seeing them exercise, and being able to interact with them, and then knowing and getting a message on Facebook, Dr. Brown, you haven't called me about my labs.
I love it.
Like,
I love
excited to see, watching hemoglobin A1C, so blood sugars drop dramatically, has been like so inspiring to see, because you read about it on the page, but when as a physician you recommend a program and then you see them do it and watch their labs improve, it has been just like, it really has set me on fire. It has been so good.
And that's diet and exercise, not through medication, right?
Yes, but I will say this.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do have patients that come, like, from a fertility perspective. I do have to help patients get healthy enough to get pregnant.
Oh, that's coming. I'm going to talk to you deeply about that.
Otherwise, I get ugly calls from Karen. Like, why did you do this?
I love it.
So sometimes we do resort to medications for patients that are just severely ill. I had a couple that she was on medications. But you have to stop them before pregnancy.
Wow.
And typically that look on their face when you're like, okay, you've reached your goal, but you have to stop. So I had a couple, they joined E2M, and I said, you've reached it. We're ready. Let's stop the medication. I need 2 months to wash this out before we start. And she looked at her husband and she smiled. And she said, we can add extra credit next round.
I love it.
There was no fear.
I love it.
She had made the lifestyle change, and she knew that the medication, she didn't need it anymore.
I love it.
So now she could just go on and have, her entire life. And that's not the typical response if you just use medication, because people don't have anything to fall back on. They haven't changed their life at all. So it's been really exciting to see.
So you opened it up. I was going to save it for later, but I'm going to jump into it now. So for those of you who are not aware, who are not in E2M, just by virtue of how the word spread, E2M is a largely women-based exercise group. So we're probably about 80% women. We got no problem with that. We like that. But you get to see, a lot of you ladies get to see a lot of women's health issues. And especially when you talked about the fertility thing. What are some of those myths that don't really are not backed by health? Like, I know I'm from the South, and they would say you need to get bigger, increase your weight to get ready for a pregnancy and things like that. What are some other myths out there that you can kind of just like share a little bit about?
So, I mean, I think one of the things that people don't know is that having infertility issues are really, really common. So 1 in 7 couples have difficulty conceiving.
Right.
And there are not enough of fertility specialists really to serve everyone, because we graduate about 40 fertility docs a year in the United States. So there's a lot of health and lifestyle things associated with fertility that people don't really think about. So what I hear a lot when I initially start talking to people about being healthy and losing weight is always an example, right? Okay. Well, my sister got pregnant and she weighs 50 pounds more than I do. So people don't think that your weight or your lifestyle can affect fertility. But what your body is doing on the inside, hormonally, is driving so much of what's happening and if you can get pregnant. So talking to people about your body functioning like it's supposed to, and that's why I'm so excited to be here, is like you can see the before and afters and all of those things, but as a physician and a hormone specialist, being able to see what's going on and be able to communicate that, like there's a lot more going on than just what's happening on the scale.
So with that one, and I want to dig kind of deeply on this one. So this is a topic that I've never touched on before because I'm very delicate about how I touch on it. A lot of women came back that had problems getting pregnant. And once they got healthy, they did a few rounds of E2M, they got pregnant. And so I never wanted to say, you can get pregnant, because I don't want to make that claim. But what are some of those things that people don't realize, could be throwing off your hormones and things that would help you get pregnant. Just lifestyle things. Is it stress? Is it fast food? Is it processed foods? What's some of those things that could cause, not a diagnosis, but what's some of the things that could cause challenges in hormones and fertility?
Right. So, I like to simplify things. I'm really big on analogies with my patients.
100%.
So I think of when you get pregnant, you need three things. You need the eggs, you need sperm, and a place for them to meet.
100%.
Right? I describe the ovaries and the eggs to my patients like a car.
Love it.
That car, if there's a problem with the car, I can't fix that, right?
Yeah.
So if you're in menopause, if you have gone through chemotherapy, if there's some issue with the car, there's really not a lot we can do. But I explain to women a lot of what's going on. Your car is fine.
Yeah.
But you are in the ice and the snow and the tornado and it's raining. And what we need to do is fix your environment so that your car can get from point A to point B, which is here and to a baby.
Right.
So one of the biggest things is insulin resistance.
Wow.
Every aspect of E2M, all of the components work really well to lower someone's insulin and insulin resistance. I got a whole other analogy about that if you want to hear that one too. But
I love it.
so insulin, elevated blood sugars, actual fat cells in your body, they produce hormones and toxins.
100%.
So toxins secreted by the fat cells are actually toxic to the ovaries, they're toxic to sperm, they're toxic to the uterus. Elevated cortisol levels. So all of these environmental things, and by environmental, I say environmental to the ovary or the sperm or the uterus, those things can all be affected by lifestyle. So what you eat, whole foods, how much you're moving, stress, social support, and avoidance of these toxic things like sugar can be directly toxic to the ovaries. And so people, like a lot of times we get focused so much on talking about the fertility aspects and the fertility treatments because again, most of us are focused on treatment of the disease, not of prevention, but a lot of it is associated. Correct.
No, I love it. And just to think, a lot of people, they don't realize that the things that they're just doing, they think that it's going to help them. It could be hurting them. Just trying to add more weight because their cousin or sister got pregnant because they added more weight. So maybe they should increase their weight to be more fertile for pregnancy. Those are not true statements. Those things are not true. What worked for your cousin or aunt or uncle or whatever or whoever, what worked for their family may not work for you.
Right.
And being healthy won't hurt. It won't hurt you. So why not try it? Why not try being healthy? It won't hurt you. What are some other women's health things that you've kind of seen out there that a lot of people they get it wrong?
Well, I can tell you my personal issue is that, well, I won't call it an issue, but a personal natural journey is that, as I'm getting older, I am almost 55 and I am going through menopause. Okay. And so E2M has significantly changed how I feel physically.
Love it.
One of the things when you go through menopause is your sleep is horrible.
Oh, wow.
You just had horrible. I already had issues sleeping just being a physician. A lot of us, depending on what type of physician you are, particularly someone who's in obstetrics. Before I stopped doing deliveries, your sleep is consistently interrupted. Wow. So E2M, basically it tires you out, and so you sleep. You actually sleep better. Your sleep hygiene changes. I was one of those people who, would fall asleep with the TV on, things of that nature. But turning the TV off and I would sleep the entire, 5, 6, 7 hours for me is great if I can sleep that long. I would literally wake up every hour and 15 minutes consistently prior to E2M. So it does help, not just, what she's talking about, help people at that phase of life who are trying to get pregnant. But for those of us who are in that change of life, it does help with that also.
I love it. That's pretty cool. I always try to get my daughter tired enough to go to sleep. Right? I guess it works for adults too.
Oh, it definitely helps with your sleep hygiene.
Right. I love it. Dr. Green, any women's health things that you've kind of seen out there, and some of those myths and things like that you've kind of seen through healthy living and how those things can be dispelled?
I think people come in with new myths every day that it's even hard to remember the things that people come in and ask questions about. But as a family medicine physician, I see newborns all the way to elderly and everything in between, men and women. You know, I see everybody, and I get a lot of women who are coming for their annual physical, and they're like, "All right, yeah, I think I'm ready to get pregnant. How can I get ready for that? What should I be doing to get to be ready?"
That's a good point.
Be pregnant. And I'm like, okay, great. Let's talk about your health journey. Are you getting any physical activity? What are the foods that you're putting in your body? How much alcohol are you drinking? What other substances are you using? How often are you smoking? Those kinds of things, right? Because a lot of people come in and they're worried about the medicine that they're taking. You know, I want to get pregnant and I'm taking this medicine. Okay, well, what are the things that you're doing to get you off of that medicine, right? And what are the healthy choices that you're making to be able to sustain this pregnancy? But also, I think they kind of just want to come in and say like, oh yeah, like once I get pregnant, that's when I'll do all the things. Right. First I'm going to get pregnant and then I'm going to start working out. And then I'm going to start doing all these things. I'm like, no, maybe start those things now.
Absolutely.
Instead of deciding that you're going to get pregnant and then making all these drastic changes in your life. Let's go ahead and start those things now that will probably help you in your fertility journey.
Go into the pregnancy healthy.
Exactly.
Correct.
Exactly.
And because that's what I do all day.
I love it. I love it.
I take care of patients who, you know, a large portion of our practice is patients who have chronic medical things like hypertension, diabetes. That's a big part of the practice. And what people, you know, it's so interesting that people come in the office and the first thing they want to know is, well, is this medicine going to hurt the baby?
Oh, wow. And,
you know, we all know that discussing weight and things like that is a very sensitive subject for a lot of people.
Big time.
And so then if you have high blood pressure or diabetes, and for a lot of people, because they don't feel sick, you know, they're stable, but they're right on that borderline. And then you get pregnant and pregnancy kicks them over into them being unstable.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Or their high blood pressure, their diabetes is now exacerbated. And so then when you try to explain to them, well, now that you're pregnant and your blood pressure is this, or your diabetes is not controlled, now we have to add more medicine to get those under control, because if it's not controlled, a series of events can happen that can lead to significant complications. And sometimes people don't make it, you know? And so becoming healthy and addressing these things before you get pregnant makes such a big difference. We know that over half of the pregnancies in the United States are unplanned.
Oh, yeah.
Unplanned. And so if you know you're in childbearing age and you know you're thinking about getting pregnant, one of the best things I feel people can do is just get a preconception consultation. Go to see your obstetrician, or a high-risk obstetrician, and kind of they'll outline for you, okay, these are the things that we need to address and get these things done before you get pregnant.
This is a great tip, and this is probably going to be something we're going to highlight. Can you say that again? What's it called? What did it ask for?
It's called preconception counseling.
Okay, and that's for anybody that's of childbearing age.
That's correct.
That is intending to have children at some point. That would give them feedback on things they can do to be best prepared.
Absolutely.
For pregnancy.
That's correct.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Because by the time they show up to me, the cat is already out of the bag.
Wow.
So it's a constant battle trying to either catch up to get your blood pressure under control or get your diabetes under control. And it's a battle.
Wow. No, I like this.
Because people are very resistant to take medicine when they're pregnant. But not understanding that if you don't take this medicine,
it's going to affect you and the baby.
Absolutely.
Wow. I mean, I think that's a key point that I just don't want to miss. Like a lot of people think they're healthy enough But like you said, they could just be right on the edge
Absolutely.
of exacerbating some of those health issues once they get pregnant. So if they were to get screened or checked out beforehand, you know, you may recommend to them that they work on their health a little bit more before that conception happens.
Being pregnant is a hormonal storm.
Wow. Wow.
And it can definitely exacerbate issues that people already have.
Wow. I know you had one time, you're ready to go.
Yes.
All right, don't lose that point. What you have?
I was just going to say, you know, I think about this as affecting generational changes because women have the ability to affect what their offspring, their children, their likelihood of chronic diseases. So high blood pressure, diabetes, those types of things before pregnancy.
Wow.
Which physiologically, I'm like, I don't even know how that makes sense.
Wow.
But the data tells us that the health of the mother before conception predicts the chronic diseases that the child is going to have as an adult.
That's pretty deep. I like that.
That is definitely true.
So there's a couple of last questions I'll ask you, ladies, and it's very important. I want to start out by how you approach clients on recommending that they you know, work on their health and their diet. How do you approach that conversation? So you have a patient that comes in and they're not in good health in terms of their BMI and things like that. How do you open that conversation? Dr. Green, how do you open that talk with them?
Yeah, so I see a lot of people that come in for their annual physicals who are hesitant to come in, as we talked about before. It's like if you're nervous to come in, it probably means that it's time for you to come in and have a conversation. And so hopefully the labs are already back so we can talk about those. And I usually just start with, how is your health? Yeah. I always say, how's your diet?
Yeah.
And diet can be a very triggering word for some people.
That's a good point.
And they'll be like, I'm not on a diet. Or, oh, you know, it's not as good as it could be. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Right? Because sometimes you just go through life and you're not thinking about it. I'm here to help figure out what the things are so that you can identify the changes that you need to make, right? I can't force you to eat the good food. So let's talk about the things that you know that you're supposed to be doing, but you're not necessarily doing, right? Which always seems to be the case. You know you're supposed to be doing this thing, but you're not doing it. So how can we make it easier for you to do? Or tell me about your exercise routine. Are you working out? And they're like, oh, well, I don't have time to get to the gym. And that's when I pull out my E2M hat. I'm like, you don't have to go to the gym.
I love it. Keep
you
doing
know,
that.
it doesn't exactly. It doesn't have to be this long slug to the gym every day. But my job is really, I really try to focus on prevention, right? My job is to help prevent you from going down the path that your family went down. I don't want you to have a heart attack at 50. I don't want you to have a stroke at 55. I want you to be able to see your grandkids graduate from high school, right? Like that is the point of what I'm doing here. And my focus is always to promote health. But to what you said, I think that it's accurate that the more physically fit I am, the more I talk about it with my patients, right? If I'm doing something that's more nuanced and fad-like, I'm less likely to recommend that to my patients. But I'm also, because that's what I'm doing in my head, I'm also not making sure that they're getting their 150 minutes of moderate cardiovascular activity in a week, right?
I love it.
So I do think that it's made me a better clinician in the preventive health space. Because these are the most important things. Now, do I recommend E2M to every patient? I don't, because
it's
not for everybody, and everybody's not always in that correct headspace, right? So one of the perks of what I do in traveling to different places, that I've also worked with a fair number of indigenous populations. I've worked up in super northern Alaska above the Arctic Circle, and I've worked on Indian reservations in New Mexico.
That's pretty cool.
And these people don't necessarily have the resources to be able to do E2M, but that doesn't mean that you can't be healthier,
100%.
right? And so there's always changes that you can make to be healthier. It doesn't necessarily have to be for those people, that specific program, but there are plenty of people that I'm like, I think you're in the right headspace and I think you're ready to make some healthy changes. You should check out this program.
I love it. So I'll make that caveat. E2M is not for everybody, but it's for a lot of people.
It's for a lot of people. It's for a lot of people.
A lot more than they are not. Okay. So what about you, Doc? How do you approach that conversation when somebody comes in and it's time to talk to them about a healthier diet and more exercise? How do you approach that?
So For me, part of the practice is it opens up that discussion pretty naturally because we do have some of these benchmarks that we have to meet before I can put someone through a fertility cycle like in vitro fertilization.
Love it.
So we have BMI cutoffs. They have to be, it's different for every practice, but most practices have some sort of BMI cutoff, blood sugar, high blood pressure. So for me, it opens that conversation because we need to have this conversation to get where you need to go. And so I typically will acknowledge the difficulty of the conversation. This conversation is often difficult, but we need to talk about your weight. And then kind of let them tell me their story, where they are, and then kind of go from there because you really have to meet people where they are. And I've had people that have started crying, that have said, I've been wanting to talk about it, but none of my doctors have talked to me about this. And then just be able to go through that process with them. But I just acknowledge, like, this is a difficult conversation, but I'm not doing my job as your doctor if we don't talk about this as well. And then I present the facts. These things can affect your fertility. And we kind of address it and go from there. And then I can make recommendations and interventions based on where they are.
Now, I will ask you something, and I know this could be a misconception or myth that I have. So I've had several friends that have done fertility, and they've had to pay out of pocket for different things that insurance didn't cover. What would you say are most common things that improve people's chances for fertility treatments to work?
So one, starting as young as possible. So the highest predictor of me being able to help someone get pregnant is age.
Gotcha.
So not waiting until, you know, your career is complete and, you know, you've been married for 5 years or whatever checklist of things that you feel like you need to do. That was the number one. It's the number one thing that I tell people is to come as early as possible. And then also, you know, making sure that you have your exams and are up to date on, you know, your physicals, and then being as healthy as possible going into that process to try to avoid needing to come to someone like me.
I love it.
If possible.
I love it. Okay, Dr. White. So from what you were saying, sometimes people don't realize that they're on that bubble from being not in bad health. They're decent where they don't have to be on medications. And you do an exam and you find out that from the labs and things like that, that they're more closer to that bad health than they think. How do you approach that?
So most of the time, I would say 90% of the time, the people that I'm seeing are already pregnant.
Oh, wow.
So I'm in a situation where they already have this disorder, whatever it is, whether it's high blood pressure, diabetes, lupus, whatever it is. And so it's a matter of managing them through this pregnancy. The main thing I just try to emphasize to patients is, one, please, please, please do not discontinue your medications without discussion with your provider. That is the biggest issue I see. So people get pregnant and their knee-jerk reaction is to stop their medication. Not understanding that poorly controlled hypertension or poorly controlled diabetes can lead to significant pregnancy complications. So that's the big thing, you know, patient, horrible hypertension. I'm like, well, you know, where's, you know, I see that in your chart that you were taking such and such medication, and say, oh, I stopped it when I found out I was pregnant. You know, and so now we're playing catch up, trying to, is the big myth, you talk about myths, is that people feel like, because I'm pregnant, I can't take any medication. And that's a huge myth. There are actually very few medicines that you can't take in pregnancy. You just have to weigh the risk versus the benefit. And so the thing is, if you don't take this medicine and you are poorly controlled, these things are more likely to happen and have poor pregnancy outcome as a result.
And that's even more of an incentive for someone who is pregnant to get to their doctor as fast as possible.
Correct.
So you can make them feel comfortable about those things, like what medications they are taking and they need to take. So the faster they get into you, the faster they can feel comfortable.
That's correct.
What they have to take. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Well, ladies, it's time for my last question. All right. So I'll say the question and I'll give you guys some time to think. So I won't put the first person on the spot. I want you to think about what you would say to someone that didn't know what's behind the curtain of E2M. There's no sneak. We're just a fitness group, but didn't know what's behind the curtain of E2M, but they're ready to change. What would you say to them? Or what would you say to yourself before you found E2M? What's something you would say to someone that would encourage them, that would give them that nudge or push to go ahead and take that step and sign up for E2M? Because my whole thing is I can't help them if they just won't take that leap. Mm-hmm. And even if they come in and it takes them a few rounds to get the hang of it, I'm not setting that timeline for anybody. Mm-hmm. Some people come in and they want to lose 50 pounds in 8 weeks. Mm-hmm. It's possible, but your effort determines that. But if you lose 50 pounds over 2 years, that's still 50 pounds over 2 years. Mm-hmm. So for me, I just want people to start. Mm-hmm. That's it. Just start. Mm-hmm. Just start with 1 pound at a time. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people just, they don't have enough of a push to get that start. So what would you say to someone that was right on, they know that they need to be healthy. You've even told them they need to be a little more healthier. You've told them. What's something you would say? Because you never know who might listen to this podcast, who might hear it. They may be skeptical, have their reservations about doing a fitness program. You can speak from your own experience. So Dr. White, I'll start with you.
I think the question I just asked myself is, if not today, when?
I love it.
That was really what the bottom line was for me. I think the second, one of the big things I hear constant is how much it costs. Right. Not that it's super expensive, but people don't. I'm like, yes, you have a cost up front. However, after this round, you never ever have to pay again.
Ever.
Right. And so, many of us, the amount of money that you spend on E2M is a lot of people spend that much going out to dinner
on coffee. On coffee per week.
Correct, and on coffee. So I think just if you're at that point where you need to do something, you just have to say, okay, today is the day.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And that's it for me. That was it for me.
I love it, and that's what it is. Mm-hmm. Okay, Dr. Brown, what you got?
So I tell people that this is a comprehensive program.
Absolutely.
And so I think when people are like on the fence, they don't know what to do. Yeah. When you sign up for E2M, you really don't have to think about anything else.
That's correct.
Give it all to you.
It has the nutrition. It has the exercise. We address. I feel like it's my group.
This is our group. Yeah.
Address the sleep. We have the social support, the stress reduction, everything that lifestyle medicine focuses on. It's comprehensive. And then I ask people what their hesitation is, and then I just knock down excuses because I have lived the program for so long. I don't have the money. Yes, you do. You know what else is expensive? This medication is way more expensive than E2M.
That's true.
This is, eggs are so expensive right now. You know what's less expensive? Beans. Let's talk about the vegan program. I just go through and I address with people everything that their concerns are. But I think the comprehensive nature of the program and the cost effectiveness of it and the fact that I know that it works. Yeah. I have people in my office that are doing it that works. So we have all of these people that can, attest to the success of the program. They leave the office. They don't really have any more excuses. Now, they may not do it, but it's not because we weren't able to address all of the concerns at that time.
And that's a really good point. For me, it has been less difficult to convince people. Because if someone knows you and they see the transformation,
100% true.
They're like, wait a minute, what are you doing? It's a little different. For me, it would be different having that discussion with a patient who's never seen me before.
I agree.
However, but if someone knows you and they see there's an obvious transformation, then they're like, well, I want to get on the bandwagon.
Yeah. I want to jump on something you said just now, and it was is deep to me because it's special to me. You said our group, we. A lot of people just look at, because I'm the guy who created this whole thing, it's like they want to know what I know. Like, what do you know about this and what do you know about that? I want you to think broader. I'm sitting on a panel with doctors with tons of experience advocating for a program. I want people to remove that skepticism. So if somebody's watching this and you were skeptical about doing the program because you want to know how, I've trained 180,000 people. If that ain't enough for you, go find somebody that's trained more. All right? I'm sitting on a panel with people with medical degrees. If that ain't enough for you, I don't know what else I can do for you. But the thing about it is, over time, that has started to become easier because of things like this. And the ownership that you ladies take in this being our group. Unless you are a doctor yourself, there's not much you can say to defend doctors advocating for something. And so I just want to thank you for saying that. I really do appreciate it. Because trust me, my early days, I did quite the fight. I had to fight a lot of people on the internet and all that kind of stuff who just didn't understand what I do. And I'm supplement free, no supplements, no crazy stuff. It's just how I do business and how I do my program that works. And so just kind of having that validation really means a lot to me. All right, Dr. Green, what you got?
I would piggyback off of what Dr. White said, that it is the most effective program that takes the least amount of brain space.
I love it.
Absolutely.
I love it.
That's a great way to look at it.
You set it up. The instructors do the workouts every morning. I know what's on the plan for the week. One grocery shop, and I'm all set.
I love it.
And it also makes it a lot easier because, like, going out to a restaurant and there's a lot of options, and it's like all of a sudden now that's very overwhelming. I'm like, I could just go home and have some eggs and some vegetables and a handful of nuts. It has actually made the process of deciding what I want to eat to get fast food, it makes that harder. Like, I know that there's stuff at home. I'll just go do that, and it'll be easier and it'll be cheaper, and I'll keep going with my day. It takes up so much less brain space than trying to figure all of the other programs I've done out.
I love it. Okay, ladies, in closing, I'll let you plug whatever you want to plug. You can shout out your friends. This is your minute with the mic. So plug yourself, whoever. I will. I'm starting in the middle because I always go corner to corner. So I'm going to start in the middle. Dr. Brown, it's on you. You got a minute to plug whoever you want to plug, shout out whoever you want to shout out, your practice, whatever you want to do.
Okay, so I definitely want to start off with my 3 kiddos.
Love it.
Because I will remember their names for sure. And whoever else I'm going to forget. But my 13-year-old Emmy and Lincoln is 9. My baby boy is Evander. And I'm just really thankful that they have, E2M is part of our family fabric. We have done meetups together. We've did our spring break around a meetup. So them really supporting me in this process has been really, really amazing. My original accountability group, I have my New Orleans crew, my girl Bex. You talk about meeting people that you have connected with for years. I had the opportunity to meet her this year in February, and it was just amazing.
Awesome.
Cool. I have my rowing crew, Nassim and John Daly and Helen.
I love it.
And then, that first meetup in Houston where I got to hang out with Shauna and Amber and Pamela and Josh and, Justina. It was just amazing. It was amazing. And then really all the San Antonio crew. So CJ is just motivating all the time. People I've worked with in the past, the Alamo City E2M. And then really the women that I work with, Nancy and Cheryl and Susan and Millie, who have embraced the E2M lifestyle. It's really nice when you have a group of people that are supportive of you, who put their health as a priority to help patients as well. It's really nice to have a team. So, I know I missed some people, but
no, that's
I'm
good.
sure
I want to thank you, Jeff, for inviting us and everything that you do and all the trainers. It's just been a really amazing experience to really go through this process and challenge myself to really look at medicine in a new way and study in a new way to really help people. It's been really awesome for me.
Thank you, doctor. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna save Dr. White for last.
Short and sweet.
All right, Dr. Green. Shout out whoever you want.
I have shouted out my accountability groups already. I would also like to shout out my family, who's always been supporting me. My parents, my siblings, my 3 awesome nephews, who are soccer superstars. Shout out Grandma, who's 104, coming up on 105 this summer, prayerfully. And then to find us online and to hear more about Grandma's story, it's Finding Fellowship. We have a little documentary that's been on PBS, so check that out. You have? Excellent.
That's
great.
And then my sister and I have a podcast called The Sisters Will See You Now. She's also a family medicine physician, so you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, and we're on Instagram at Sisters Will See You Now.
That's awesome. That's good stuff. So you're a podcast pro. I like it.
Hey.
help me get through my podcast. Dr. White, last but not least.
I think, well, first of all, I'll speak for my Spelman classmates and my Spelman sisters, who a large number of the people that I've helped bring into E2M literally come from my Spelman family.
Thank you for that.
And then I just really want to say thank you and the E2M crew. You really are changing lives.
God's plan.
I don't even know that you guys really know. You guys are changing lives.
Thank you so much.
And we got to shout out our social media sisters.
Oh, yes.
Please shout them out. By all means, I need you to slowly shout them out.
to all of our sister physicians who are also in this program. We are so happy to rep you all on this today.
All right, so if you're hearing this podcast and you were skeptical about coming in, you're in that group. Every member of that group should be a member of E2M, but it's all good. Ladies, thank you so much. It was a wonderful opportunity to be here with you. I appreciate it. Thank you. It's an honor to be your coach, and this is going to help some people. I mean, you guys, wherever you go, you're helping people be healthy and save lives, because this is going to help somebody out there that watches this podcast take that leap. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Of course. And my friends, that is a wrap for this podcast.